technology is great. That's actually what we were talking about the last show, is the explosion of content creators, which is kind of what we're talking about, you know. And I think it's a good conversation to have. It's like, look what's happening, you know, that we have this information age that's just completely bloomed, and it's given people freedom. It's given people freedom of thought, freedom of expression. And the artist in everybody is using these tools to basically get their minds out there. And then those minds coalesce and they gravitate and they attract and they magnetize. And then there's something new. It's kind of like a star is born, right? It's like a nebula, or some kind of, you know, cosmic thing happens. So I think that what's happening is a beautiful thing. And I think the surge is going to be too much for the control systems. And I believe that everyone needs to jump on and have a voice and say something and get their message out there, and to also connect, you know, like me connecting with you, other people, you know, me showing you Robert, you getting on a live show with them, and you know, and everybody just needs to spend some time talking to everybody else, and then we can all be a big family, a big movement.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to control it. I mean, you know, the thing is, I mean, the good thing is, like, there's other channels out there like BitChute that we use where that's uncensored. It's like peer-to-peer. But if you were like watching, I don't know if you got to see any of the Project Veritas videos, Zachary Voorhees actually came out. He was a Google employee, and he shared shared the YouTube suppression list.
Yeah, I saw that.
It was like cancer cure, you know, and I can kind of understand from the FCC, like, but it was like Nevada, you know, shooter, this, that, Tommy Robinson.
There's an underlying narrative behind the censorship.
Yeah, controlling the public mind. And so it's like, that's why they're trying so hard. You're right, because this stuff is getting out there. People are starting to connect the dots. People are starting to be their own, you know, anons and like figure out all this stuff, and then broadcasting. And that's like the big thing. But yeah, it's definitely part of, you know, a system to keep people locked into a certain reality on the planet.
Right.
And if we go out of that box, it's like, oh, we got to herd you back in. And that's, you know, that's the thing. And so the technology
they can't contain that.
Yeah. Yeah. There was the guy, Epstein, not Jeffrey Epstein, but there was another Epstein that was like a data analyst. And he basically figured out that in the last election, based on the information being swayed when people did searches and the news results being swayed, that Google may have manipulated something to the effect of, you know, 5 million to 12 million votes to, you know, one side, which, I mean, that has no place obviously in a free society, and it's just ludicrous. But they're definitely, you know, clamping down the screws on content creators as well.
Right, and I think that it's kind of like I use the analogy of, you know, the Lord of the Rings scene, right, where they're at the keep and the orcs are climbing, they're pushing through, they bomb through the gates, and it all seems dark, you know. I think we're at that transition point where, you know, the light beams through, Gandalf rises his scepter, and Rohan comes down the mountain, and I think that what it's going to take more soldiers, and I think more people need to get on and be a voice, because we're all at a level of awareness, acceptance, right? Like there's a certain level that no matter who you are, you're like, yeah, that's crazy. And then there's a certain level where people are like, oh, maybe, because they're ready for that, right? They're ready for that level. And so it doesn't matter what level you're coming at, you're gonna help somebody who's right under you, who's ready for that next step, and presenting information in your own unique way that's going to allow them to, you know, come on board. And then from there, it's the rabbit hole, right? I mean, it just becomes this obsessive digestive process of more and more and more and more and more. And I think that what humanity has realized collectively in the past 15, 20 years is that what we were told was true compared to what is true is so dynamically different that it is rapidly evolving people into the reality of humanity, and as opposed to the idea, the controlled idea of what humanity was. And
my favorite quote is by Oliver Wendell Holmes Sr. So he's the father of Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr., who's probably one of the best known Supreme Court justices. Some say it was like the best justice ever. But he said that man's mind stretched to a new idea can never regain its original dimension.
Exactly.
One idea, one thing. And I think, you know, like the Epstein situation with the supposed suicide was a big one for a lot of people. Like, you know, that just doesn't make sense. Even his attorneys today released a statement that they believe it was a homicide. Like, actually,
well, they, you know, that move was them giving up their queen to save the king.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
makes sense. That move, they knew that
Oh,
move
yeah.
was going to wake up a lot of people.
Yeah.
But they had no choice to give their queen up because they're at that last stage.
Oh, you're talking about the sort of cabal deep state. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm saying the chessboard is that wasn't a pawn that they gave.
Yeah.
That was a queen. You know, they that was connected. So now you've got a lot more people that you got to really kind of now control. And I think that was a bad move for them. I think that the short term for them, they got away with it. The long term is going to accelerate the process of people waking up. And
it was a no-win deal. But I mean, honestly, it was, you know, I'd rather him be alive and testifying. And honestly, I mean, I've said this publicly. I'm like, you know, all these people, they're like, oh, Trump and Barr and trust the plan. It's like, you know, if I'm an attorney, right? So if I had a defendant in a criminal matter and I'm really know that guy's got great information and I've got bigger fish to fry, I mean, I would have that guy at a military base. I'd have him under I would not keep it at a municipal holding facility in New York, which is, you know, corrupt. I mean, there's just so many things about it. It's like, you have to question. And the real thing is we just don't know, you know, even people that are like on the side where we kind of feel like, okay, those people got it. And they're like, trust the plan, do this. Like we just don't know. We're here. Most of us don't have like these connections. And even if we do, they may not know. So we're all just kind of like guided through this like collective conscious like journey to hopefully get to some endpoint. And so like,
I think it's healthy to look at like things on certain levels, right? There's this kind of collective understood level of the way things operate. And then you can have some opinions based on that level. And then there's these kind of probably more real levels, but more unbelievable levels of reality that have to do with mafia systems that are behind these political apparatuses that are ancient. They go back into ancient times. And there's these control mechanisms that we don't know. We've been, you know, there's so many conspiracy theories around this stuff, but it's really hard for us to get a clear picture of what's going on. But essentially you can look at it as mafias that are basically warring with each other over control over certain areas of society, whether it be, you know, goods and commerce or power and politically or whether it be whatever it is. But you're going to have these kind of pockets of power systems that are all more or less like kingships that are absolved into this new industrial revolutionary a model that we've created the past 100 years that are now fighting for control of their own ways. And they're all kind of wanting the same bigger thing, but they're also fighting with each other over who gets what, you know, and I think that's what's happening. And so it's hard for us to really figure out what's going on because it seems like they're against each other, for each other. Is Trump good? Is he bad? What's going on here? You know, who can do what? People give a lot of power to presidency, and he's probably the lowest guy on the top tier of power structures, at least within this circle of power in America. So you can watch what he does, but he's still controlled, and there's still things above him that he can and can't do. So, if you play with the accepted level of reality, you can have your opinions and you can argue that, you can do all that. But, I think it's good to understand that it's really not the big picture. And so when you see things happening, you really need to look at it with, read between the lines and kind of look at it with a little bit of an X-ray lens.
Yep.
So that's my opinion on it, but it's healthy to kind of look at both levels and just, kind of navigate it a little bit. But